Merry Christmas Eve! We appreciate you spending part of your holiday with us. Skip Bayless and Molly Karam here in Bristol. Stephen A. joins us from Philly. Gentlemen, we have no show tomorrow, so I will say Merry Christmas.
Same to you, Molly.
Both of you today.
Merry Christmas. Merry Christmas. How you doing?
I'm good. I'm wondering if you guys are in the holiday spirit.
Oh, yes. I will be in a better holiday spirit once I get to stop shopping. I can tell you that.
This is the last nice thing I'm going to say to you on this show. I love you, man, and Merry Christmas.
Love you too, bro. Merry Christmas, my man. Merry Christmas. Love you too, Molly.
Yes.
Merry Christmas. You're doing a wonderful job. You've had a sensational year.
All right.
Likewise.
She's already on your side.
Likewise.
We know. You don't need to go any farther.
Thank you, guys. See, now the Grinches have come back. Yeah, I get it. All right, let's get into it. It appears the MVP race is locked up by one Cam Newton. According to USA Today Sports' Tom Pelissero, who wrote an article that the race is pretty much over. So Pelissero took an informal poll where 5 of 6 general managers voted for Cam. Just one GM voted for Tom Brady. However, could Brady possibly earn the top spot again Sunday at the Jets, where there's a lot on the line? New England will clinch the #1 seed in the AFC with a win. So, Skip, what does Brady need to do to win the MVP this Sunday?
You know, here's the better question to me. Can he do enough to win the MVP? And there are two views of this. There's my view, and then what I believe is the view of most voters on this question. In my view, just my view only, I definitely believe, as I told you Monday, Tom Brady has a great opportunity to close the deal for MVP on Sunday against his arch rival on the road against Revis and Cromartie, one of the best secondaries in the National Football League, the 5th-rated defense in the National Football League, in a high-stakes game. And I believe Tom Brady will do enough to win MVP on Sunday because I believe he will be the biggest reason that the Patriots beat the Jets 24-20. Now back to the other half of that question. I think it's over. I agree with the 5 GMs that Tom Pelissero quoted in his USA Today piece. I just think most of the world, in most voters' minds, this is a done deal. It is over. Cam Newton has already won the MVP no matter what happens in his game at Atlanta and his game against Tampa Bay. Already over. Even if they lose those 2 games, Cam Newton will win the MVP. Why? Underlying reason? Brady hate, Deflategate. We all know that Tom Brady was, in my view, prematurely convicted in the court of public opinion as a cheater in Deflategate, who then lied about it. And even though Tom Brady beat the NFL in court in an NFL home game in Manhattan, didn't change a lot of minds about Tom Brady. And I think a lot of those minds that got closed are voters' minds. And we already know, Stephen A. Smith, that there was enough resentment of Tom Brady before Deflategate. Obviously, the supermodel wife, the golden boy, blah, 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 blah. We know all that. But Deflategate did him in. There's no way he's going to win MVP, even with a great performance at the Jets, beating the Jets on Sunday. Will he win MVP? It's Cam's. It's over. It's done. Congratulations, Cam Newton.
Well, first of all, I disagree with you from this respect. Number one, I don't think it's a foregone conclusion. I think a lot of people do believe that it should be Cam, that there are others that obviously are of the mindset that I'm in. If he runs the table and he's undefeated, there's no doubt. But I look at it from, dare I say, a more cynical perspective than you, Skip. I think that if Cam Newton loses one game of these last 2, he could potentially lose the MVP. They'll give it to him. If they run the table, they're 16-0. They're undefeated throughout the regular season. But if he loses one of these 2 games and Brady plays lights out these final 2 games, and let's say they end up with identical 14-2 records, or Cam is 15-1 and Brady is 14-2, I still think there's a chance that Brady could win. Cam is my MVP. Over the last 6 games, Skip, he has 19 touchdowns and 1 interception. 1 interception in the last 6 games. His QBR at this moment in time is at about 67. I think that's respectable. He's obviously a better runner and far more athletic than Tom Brady, even though Tom Brady has better numbers, yardage-wise, completions, and what have you. But Tom Brady went through a 4-game stretch where he struggled, particularly in the back-to-backs against Denver and against Philly. Even though he almost pulled out the victory against Denver, he was struggling a little bit that game. Just look at the numbers. And so when I look at it from that perspective, you had a 2-game losing streak. Obviously, you struggled a little bit in terms of your completion percentage. You didn't seem to be yourself for like a 4-game period of time, whereas Cam Newton, as the season progressed, appeared to elevate even more. And as the weeks went by, he seemed to get better and better. That's not to say that there weren't some doldrums along the way. I thought the game against Dallas, the defense won that game as opposed to Cam Newton. But I just look at it from this perspective of his body of work coming into the season, losing Kelvin Benjamin, having a guy in Ted Ginn who can be spectacular or be spectacularly bad with dropping passes 1 minute to the next. You got Greg Olsen and not even much else to point to. Funches can play, but he's still developing. Jonathan Stewart can play, but he was used to sharing that backfield with D'Angelo Williams, and then he had a load that he had to carry. So I look at all of these things along with what was projected coming into this season. Coming into this season, fresh off a 7-8-1 year, it was projected that the Carolina Panthers would be lucky to win 8 to 9 games because Kelvin Benjamin, Cam Newton's primary weapon, had ended up going down, and lo and behold, that's been debunked. So I look at all of those different things, and I say to myself, excuse me, when you talk about MVP caliber performances, what people bring to the table, particularly as the season progresses, in some tacit kind of way, Skip, you can look at it similar to college football. North Carolina was in the picture until they lost that ACC championship game to Clemson. Why was that? Because even though they had already had one loss on their docket, it was earlier in the season. First game of the season in South Carolina. Alabama came on strong. They had one loss when they lost to Ole Miss, but as the season progresses, they elevated their level of play. Cam Newton, same thing. As the season has progressed, he has elevated his level of play. That's not to ignore or just shove aside the fact that Gronk went down, Edelman went down, Amendola went down, Deion Lewis is out, LeGarrette Blount is not out for the season.
The offensive line,
all of those things, the offensive line, out. All of those things are obviously important. But you got Belichick and you have Brady. And the combination of those two gives you a level of continuity and consistency that you can lean on and rely upon from a systemic perspective. And when you look at it from that standpoint, I just think that Cam Newton coming out of nowhere and elevating his play in big moments against Seattle, against New Orleans, last week against the Giants, we have seen him in pressure situations time and time again, and he has exceeded expectation. I think all of those things combined with them running the table gives him the league MVP, so long as he doesn't wet the bed and stink up the joint these last 2 games. But I don't believe he can stink up the last 2 games, Skip, and they'll give it to him anyway. That's why I disagree with your assertion that it's a foregone conclusion. They're assuming that Cam is going to be Cam, Brady's going to be Brady, and we'll give it to Cam. Not that Cam can stink up the joint against Atlanta and then against Tampa, but Brady plays lights out against the Jets and in the season finale, and Brady still loses. I don't see that happening. I think if Cam is Cam and Brady is Brady, it goes to Cam. But Cam has to continue to perform over these last 2 games for it to happen.
Just for the record, I believe Cam will continue to perform at a high level against those lowly Falcons on Sunday, even in Atlanta, which is Cam's hometown. Yep. Okay, so we agree on that.
That's right.
Okay, can I go back to the most stunning stat I've heard in a long time to help make the Brady case? Just bear with me on this because it pertains to the last time the Jets and the Patriots played, which was in Week 7 in Foxborough. The Patriots won that game 30-23. In that game, Tom Brady dropped back to pass on 91% of the Patriots snaps. Now think about that. 91% of the time, they called a pass play for Tom Brady. And for the game, James White had 2 carries for 4 yards. LeGarrette Blount, 3 carries for -3 yards. And Tom Brady had 4 carries for a team-leading 15 yards and a touchdown, okay? That's how bad the run game was. 91% of the time he threw, and over the last 10 years, that was the #1 highest percentage any team's quarterback has dropped back to pass. Over those 10 years, bear with me on this, the Patriots have had 4 times that they've gone over 80% of the snaps that they let Brady drop back to pass. They won all 4 games. They're 4-0 in those 4 games over the last 10 years, 80% plus dropbacks. The league over that time, in its 80+% dropbacks, is 4 and 111. So 115 times the rest of the league tried 80% dropbacks and lost 111 of 115 times. What does that tell you about Tom Brady? He can be the running game. You want the ball in Tom Brady's hands every play. Forget about the run game. Occasionally they rely on it, but mostly they don't. And now if it's Joey Isafina as the primary running back on Sunday versus the vaunted Jets rush defense, which going into the Dallas game was #1 in the league, it's just Brady. It's all Brady. They're reliant. The whole offense is in his hands every play. And you can come back at me. I don't want to take anything away from Cam here because he's had a sensational breakout year. But he leads quarterbacks in rush yards. Jonathan Stewart's had a really good year as a running back for them. So they have a run game thanks in large part to Cam. He's a big part of that. Brady has none. Brady can't really run. That was just an aberration that he got, 15 yards on 4 carries. So my point to you is Brady's doing it all from the pocket with the ball in his hands, and he just keeps on keeping on. He keeps doing it. And while Cam was having 6 pretty mediocre games early on, Brady was playing at the highest level I've ever seen any quarterback play at coming out of Deflategate. So my point to you is I don't think you can discount the body of work for the whole year. I agree Cam's just been crazy hot for the last 5 games. But in the end, watch what will happen Sunday. I don't think they'll be able to run the ball at all against the Jets. So Brady will probably throw it about 90% of the time, and I think he'll win the game throwing it 90% of the time.
Well, a couple of things that need to be pointed out, Skip. Number one, there's a lot of plays that are made after the catch on behalf of Brady. Dips and dunks do occur with him. We all know he can fling that football. He's got an arm, he's got accuracy, and nobody's taken away from the greatness of Tom Brady. But there's a lot of dipping and dunking that he exercises and the New England Patriots employ that work to his advantage. That's point number one. Point number two, what you just said about Cam Newton, about how spectacular he's been as the season has waned. That also means we're not disrespecting Brady. We're just lauding and praising Cam Newton because he deserves it. Point number three is a 4-game stretch. We're talking about Tom Brady here. It's a 4-game stretch, Skip Bayless. I got the numbers right in front of me. He completed 61.9% of his passes against the New York Giants. Against Buffalo, it was 51.2%. Against Denver, it was 54.7%. Against Philadelphia, when they lost that game, it was 51.7%. So I'm saying that when you look at him, there was a 4-game gap in there. We all understand, primarily due to injuries. We also understand that obviously Brady's going to throw the football more. He's going to be accurate on more occasions. But at the same time, the overall impact that he has, one could argue Cam Newton has that impact because Cam Newton facilitates the running game for Jonathan Stewart. Cam Newton is the reason why you got a passing game with Olsen and Ted Ginn Jr. as your wide receivers. Cam Newton's the reality is the fact that you have he's the cause for your running game because you not only have to concern yourself with Jonathan Stewart, you have to concern yourself with him. And as a result, it also opens the passing game because of Cam Newton's athletic ability and his ability to run the football. You've got to have spies on him. You can't just sit there and suffocate the line of scrimmage, nor can you drop back in coverage and just have a 3-man rush or a 4-man rush because of the things this brother can do. You look at all of those things that Cam Newton brings to the table. Again, it's a toss-up. I totally understand where you're coming from. Nobody's trying to take anything away from Tom Brady. But at the end of the day, what it comes down to, Skip, is something that we haven't recognized. We want to give all due respect and props to Ron Rivera, who has done a sensational coaching job with the Carolina Panthers and deserves our respect. We were critical of him in the past. No reason to be critical of him now. We have to praise this man and the job that he's doing. Yep. But in the end, Skip, Bill Belichick Ron Rivera never gets mentioned in the same sentence as Bill Belichick. Bill Belichick is considered a genius throughout football circles. Deflategate, Spygate, and all of this other stuff notwithstanding, Bill Belichick is considered the modern day genius. This man is on another level as a coach. That is somebody that Tom Brady has relied upon, and he has relied upon Tom Brady all of these years. Ron Rivera, we weren't talking about him in that same ilk. This is Cam Newton team. This is what this brother has been doing. And his ability to throw the football, to run the football, to be athletic, to be the leader that he is, all of those things included. You can't take away a year of unblemished perfection from this young man if indeed he runs the table.
Okay. Point of order, we don't have time to debate this, but I'm going to say it again. Tom Brady made Bill Belichick. And I don't want to go into that. That's just my opinion of your overview of this situation. Now, number two, you realize the dinks and dunks you referred to early on with Brady? He has no deep threat. Brandon LaFell is his deep threat, or as I often call him, La Drop, because he drops as many balls to my eyes as Ted Ginn Jr. drops and can't get behind anybody to boot. So what do you expect him to do?
And?
Okay, well, so
I'm not blaming him, Skip. I'm not blaming him. I'm just saying that's the reality.
Okay. So Brady's doing what he has to do with what he has to work with. Now he has about a 50% Gronk, no Edelman, no Amendola, patchwork offensive line, no primary back he can really trust. James White's starting to come on a little bit as a third down kind of back. But what? Against the Jets, at the Jets? And I'm saying they're going to win the game. And if they win that game, he deserves to be the MVP. Now, what do you think about the game?
I disagree with that, and I think that the Jets are going to beat them. If you recall, earlier this year, I said that the New England Patriots could potentially lose 2 games. Mm-hmm. I said they'd probably go 14-2. You got the Giants game, the Denver Broncos game, and the New York Jets game. And I said, look, I definitely see them losing one of those games, and I picked Denver to win. I said, number 2, the Giants will give them a run for their money, but they'll lose one of those games at MetLife Stadium in all probability. 15-1 is possible. 14-2 is likely. I said from day one, the game on December 27th at MetLife Stadium in East Rutherford, New Jersey, is a game that we need to watch out for because the Jets are going to need that game in order to make some noise and to have a shot at the playoffs. I said that months ago. I'm going to stand by that. I'm not going to jump ship. I believe this particular game is a game the New York Jets are going to win. I think they're going to pull this game. I think they're going to pull this out. So I'm going to pick the Jets to win this game 30-28.
Wow, kind of a shootout, actually. Well, if you're right about that, then your conclusion should be Cam will cinch the MVP on Sunday. Right?
Okay.
Well, I mean, that's what you're saying. If Cam's going to beat Atlanta. Right?
Yeah, I think that Atlanta's game is going to be tougher than we realize. It's because they got shellacked so badly 2 weeks ago on the road. I think they'll come to play this Sunday. I still think they'll lose, but I don't think it'll be easy for the Carolina Panthers to win this game.
Before we move on real quick, one thing I want to mention, I do think Cam has locked it up, but if the race isn't over, these 2 games are really tough to put a lot on because once these teams lock up home field, both can with a win. Week 17 doesn't really count. So basically the MVP race is decided this Sunday after Week 16. All right.
I've been saying that for a couple of days. It's going to come down to the last 2 games.
Yep.
Last one game.
Week 16. The